What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome back to the podcast. I am really so excited to be back and so grateful for the space that I took. These last few months have been really wild. I'm going to actually talk about this more today, and this is what I really came here to talk to you about. But I have given myself a lot of space over the last 6 weeks, especially to take what I need. And part of that meant taking space from some of the things that I was really excited about before that. And I'm so grateful for the work that I've done to get to a place where I could allow myself that space without making it a big problem. Obviously, you guys know I love this podcast so much. I have some really fun plans for it, and I'm so excited about where I'm going with it. But when I was faced with some really hard news a couple of months ago, which I will share more about here today, I was also faced with the realization that this process, this experience was going to require me taking some space, maybe more than ever. And so this was one of the things that I felt like was the right thing to just hit the pause button on and come back to when I had the words to share, when I had the space to really show up for this in a way that felt really good to me. And so I'm really happy to be back in this chair. I'm really happy to be back in your world. And I'm excited to share today. I have a lot of topics. I've been making lists and lists of all the things that I want to come back in here and talk to you guys about and share with you. I actually am going to start bringing some guests on the podcast, which I'm really excited about. That was never really part of my plan at the beginning. But I'm really excited to do that. And what we're going to talk about today is actually something that I coach on a lot right now. It's also something that I have been messaging with many of you about on Instagram and in the DMs. And it's actually something that I am facing in my own life. And so all signs are pointing to the importance of this conversation. And I'm actually really excited to just dive in and kind of tell you what's been going on and really walk through some of the realizations that I've had and some things that I think are going to be really helpful for you. Um, the real question that I'm going to be answering today is, how do I keep showing up? How do I keep moving forward when things feel really hard? And you can imagine that I have, at this point right now, I think I have 37 clients that I'm coaching at a pretty high level and a pretty intimate level. And you can imagine, with everything that's going on in our country and in the world, I'm asked this question a lot. Like, how do you keep showing up when things are hard, and how do you navigate that? And so on top of what's happening in the world, I've actually been faced with a really close to home, really hard thing over the past few months. My sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, and um, it has been really hard. And I keep, kind of having this, like, this isn't your story to tell, but I was reminded by some really incredible friends that I have, and even within myself, that even though I am not the one who was diagnosed with breast cancer, my sister, my best friend, my first friend, um, was. And so now her story is part of my story. And while I'm not going to get into the details of everything that's happened, when she was first diagnosed, it was actually a really hopeful diagnosis, if there is such a thing with cancer. But like, all of the odds and all of the scenarios really pointed to this pretty standard, unfortunately, pretty common process. But it was like, this number of surgeries, this many months, and you will be back to normal. And unfortunately, as good as that sounded, that isn't how it's gone. And so it's kind of been one setback after another, one piece of hard and scary news after another. And here we are 2 months later, which we thought we would be kind of on her path to walking towards recovery and reconstruction. And she still has cancer in her body. And so we're navigating the next steps of that. And so obviously, as someone who does a ton of thought work to really find the goodness and the abundance in what's happening. And as someone who shares a lot about her life online and is building an online business that really does require me to show up, I have spent a lot of time over the last few months trying to figure out how to get this right. And it makes me emotional because this is the real human experience, right? Is like there is no getting this right. There is just doing the best you can and doing the next right thing and allowing yourself to feel what is really real and just taking it one step at a time. And so that's what I've done. And I think from the outside in, there's parts of this that I haven't shared. And part of that was because I kept telling myself, like, this isn't yours to share. You can share more once we get through it. Just keep showing up in the ways that you can and let that be enough. And I'm actually really grateful that that felt safe to me because that's what I've done is I have continued to show up for my life. I have continued to show up for my work and my clients while in the background taking a lot of time and space to be and to feel and to love on her and to go see her and to do the best that I can with what I have in this season. But as I've spent that time and taken that space to be with myself and to really reflect on how I've experienced this, I've learned a lot. And while we're not through it, I am at a place where I feel like I'm ready to share what has been really helpful for me um, in all of this. And going back to some of the coaching that I've done on this is I have a lot of, I have the best clients. And I have clients with the most incredible hearts. And I have clients who are really big and really deep feelers. And I have clients who care a lot about humanity and what's going on in the world. And because of that, the same question I've been asking myself, I've been asked from my clients is how do I show up? How do I keep living this life when it feels like the world is on fire and when there is so much pain and so much suffering? And so whether you are facing maybe something that is close to home, like I am, or you are someone who carries the weight of the world on her shoulders, I feel you and I see you. And I'm hoping that some of the awareness that I've created and some of the thoughts that have been really helpful for me will also be really helpful for you. I could go a million different directions with this, but I want to start with the realization that I had as I was walking through this at the beginning. I found myself, by way of wanting to carry some of my sister's suffering, I found myself suffering. And it was almost from a place of how can I feel good in my days when I know she is hurting so bad? And this wasn't a me feeling my feelings and feeling my sadness. I definitely did that too. But it was the empath in me that really wanted to dim everything that was good in my life because I felt like that was me matching her suffering, or for you, it might be matching the suffering of the world. That comes from that very loving thought of like, how can I feel good when there's so much suffering? And so then we lead ourselves down this path of not letting ourselves feel good. And something that I've shared with so many of my clients who are grappling with this is that we must remember that our suffering doesn't lessen their suffering. And, if I could have one superpower, I think that it would be this. I think I would want to be able to hold people's suffering for them. I would want to suffer temporarily just to give them a break, right? If I could suffer and it would lessen their suffering, I would do that because I care so deeply about people. And And I would choose that. If I can just hold their suffering for a day so that they could experience the relief and peace from that suffering, I would do that. But because it's not possible, when we are suffering, because someone else is suffering, we are actually magnifying the suffering. So often when we're suffering, we become paralyzed. So we do very little and we don't take action on things from a place of suffering. We just want to suffer. Our brains want us to suffer to try to match other people's suffering. It's like, how can I feel good if they're feeling so bad? And so then we go to the place of making ourselves feel bad because it feels like maybe that would help. But the reality is our suffering doesn't lessen their suffering. In fact, I think it magnifies it. I think that, by really channeling that energy and that experience and bringing ourselves out of any vibration that could be of abundance, we are lowering the vibration of the world. And so when you see the power that you have to choose something different for the good of the world while other people are suffering, choosing to lean into abundance could actually be good for them. And so I've explored that a lot because I was sitting in the suffering for a couple of days and realizing that, yes, I was feeling a ton of heartache. But what I was really trying to do was suffer in hopes that that would lessen her suffering, but it doesn't. In fact, it led me to, feeling isolated and feeling paralyzed. And so I wasn't even taking any action or doing anything that could possibly help or lessen her suffering. The flip side of this coin is us experiencing goodness and joy and abundance while other people are suffering doesn't take away from their goodness and joy and abundance either. Right. And so when you imagine again the energetic vibration of, and this isn't to take you out of your feelings. I want you to feel your feelings. Like I have been feeling my feelings more than ever. I've cried more than ever. I have grieved so much during all of this. But I've also realized that that's not all I have. I have a lot of really incredible things in my life right now that I can also focus on. And I do believe that me leaning into the vibration of abundance and goodness and joy is good for the world. I think it's good for my sister if I let myself exist in those feelings, because how I show up for her when I am in that place is so different than if I was suffering. And the same gets to be true for you. If you are, again, an empath who is taking on the weight of the world and everything that's going on, and you're watching the news and you're sitting with all of this hardship, you're probably not existing in a place that's going to allow you to move, to activate in a way that's going to make a difference for those people. And so if you are suffering with the thought, like, I can't feel good when there is so much suffering happening, I just want you to zoom out and I want you to go, like, what would it look like to witness their suffering, to be witness to the fact that these things are true and real and that there is a lot of pain in the world. But to go, do you know where I do my best work is when I lean into the power that I actually have right now, which can be goodness and abundance, and take action from that place. I think that's the actual power move is, yes, there is all this stuff happening, but what do I actually have power over? And I'm not trying to take your heart out of this. You guys, I'm not asking you to not feel it. Again, I think that's a really important part. I think it's necessary for you to feel it. But then we've got to move. Right? If it's something that's really important to you, like, what can you do with those feelings? What can you do to shift out of that suffering or out of that lack and into a place of, what can I actually do to move the needle here? Because you swimming in that suffering is keeping you paralyzed. I made some notes because I want to make sure that I don't skip over anything. My joy doesn't lessen their joy. In fact, what if the opposite is true? I keep having that thought. What if I didn't make myself wrong for feeling joy while I know my sister is hurting and suffering through this, or while I know the world is on fire? What if I leaned into joy and let that lead my actions? What if I let that lead the way that I show up for her? When I went and visited her, for about the first 24 hours, I just sat and listened to her. And I decided early on that my only job during this entire process is to love her. It's my only job. And so I did. I just showed up. I've been checking in on her every day. I've been sending flowers as much as I can. I've been showing up, checking in on her kids and that kind of thing. But I decided my only job is to love her. And so I showed up in that first 24 hours. I just sat with her and I just listened. And I found myself we were talking about our childhood and we were talking about, other things that are going on. And I found myself hesitating to tell stories that were funny in that first 24 hours. I'm like, no, like I just found myself hesitating to bring that kind of joy to the table. And then without thought, I started telling her about something funny that had happened. And immediately the room changed. And it was such a powerful, visceral reminder that me sitting in suffering with her would only keep her there. But by me connecting to what else is also true, which was a funny story that dropped into my brain to tell her, was like moments of joy that we then experienced over the next few days that I was there with her. And it changed everything. And it was such a powerful reminder that it is safe to feel joy when other people are suffering. And what if that's the gift? What if the gift is to raise the vibration of the room, raise the vibration of the world by leaning into those nudges and showing up in that energy and showing up in your joy? Something that's coming in right now and something that I've also heard is people talking about how other people should be showing up for these things. And I'm actually not talking specifically about my sister at this point, but I've seen a lot on social media about, how can these people with tons of followers not be advocating in the way that people think that they should, or showing up for these really hard things that are happening in the way that people think that they should. And I'm like, man, the opposite of love is judgment, I think. I think that's what I believe. And as soon as we are in judgment for what other people should be doing, we have stepped out of the vibration of love. And I think if we all trusted that everyone is doing the best that they can with what they have in these situations, and also trust that there's so much to people's lives and worlds that we're not seeing, that it really isn't fair for us to judge how other people are showing up for it, and just offer compassion for whatever experience people might be walking through as they're navigating the right way to show up for this. Like I said at the beginning, which it does just make me feel so emotional, is gosh, we're always in this battle to get this right, and even more than that, maybe just not get it wrong. And I'm when there's a lot of pain and suffering happening, I think everyone's navigating that in their own way. And so if you find yourself, judging the way that people are showing up for it, maybe they're not advocating in the way that you think that they should be, or maybe they're not standing up for what you think is right. I want you to trust people. I want you to see them in their power to walk their process in a way that feels good and safe for them, and at a pace that feels good and safe for their systems. Because I think we're so quick to judge what people could and should be doing in these hard moments. And if we just go inward and focus on what we have power over, again, this is the power play, is what matters most to me right now? What are my options, and what do I want to do today to move the needle here? Right? I have a client who specifically is like, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough when it comes to all the stuff that's going on in the world. And I'm like, if every single day you ask yourself, what matters to me most today? And what are my options in terms of activation for that thing? And then go do something. Go choose one of those options. And then go be in your life. Go love your babies. Go do something fun. Go experience joy. Go experience the freedom that you have. Because dimming your freedom, holding back on what is true for you, doesn't give them more freedom. Right? And so, yes, we get to take action. We get to activate in things that matter to us. And then you get to go be in your life and go experience the vibrations that are available to you right now, because collectively that does raise the vibration of the room, of the country, of the world. If you find yourself in judgment, I just want to ask you to reflect on that. If you were to shift out of judgment and into love and into your power, what would you choose to go do today? I have found myself feeling really helpless when it comes to my sister. And when I step into that, what matters to me today is that she knows I love her, and that my only job during this entire thing is to love her. And what are my options to show her that love? And then I go act on them. Sometimes that looks like a text message. Sometimes that looks like me sending them dinner. Sometimes that looks like, me sending flowers, whatever it is. Sometimes that looks like me jumping on an airplane and going up to see her. Whatever that is, I follow that thing and I let it be enough. My suffering doesn't lessen her suffering. What can I actually do today to show up for her? Something else that I realized was playing a role in this whole process for me is that I was feeling guilty that I am able to do things that I know she's not able to do right now. And I just came off of a girls' trip last week, and gosh, it was so healing. And I'm so grateful that I decided to go. But I did have the thought, like, this isn't fair. It's not fair for me to be able to go do these things when I know that she can't. And ultimately, that is just rooted in the deepest desire of love, the desire for her to be healed, the desire for her to be able to experience the goodness of moments like that. And I do believe deeply that those things will be coming, but I have found myself resisting those moments or resisting sharing about them because I'm like, it's so unfair. And I just have landed in a place of so much compassion for the part of me that wants this so bad for her. And I think that, again, this can be true on such a global level, is if you meet yourself with so much compassion for the things that you are experiencing, the thoughts that you are having, the feelings that come with those thoughts, right? Like as I experienced that guilt, I didn't rush it away. I'm like, this is because you care so deeply. And of course you're feeling this way. Like that's what self-compassion actually sounds like in these moments. And so I just want to offer that to you as another tool, because I think that so often we can kind of get ourselves in these cycles of like making ourselves wrong or feeling guilty or feeling wrong for doing things in these moments. And without rushing out of those feelings, you can meet yourself with so much compassion. And as soon as I did that, I was like, of course you're feeling this way. Of course, your desire is that she was on the other side of all of this so that she could experience these types of things too. And you don't have to make yourself wrong for continuing to live your life, because I know in the deepest part of my heart is the last thing that she wants is for me to stop my joy, to stop my life. She wants me to carry on. She wants me to keep experiencing the things that she's not able to right now. I know that that is true. And so just honoring those thoughts and those feelings and meeting them with so much compassion has been so incredibly helpful for me and healing for me. All right, I'm just going to wrap this up with one more reminder. When you find yourself suffering on behalf of others, remember that even though I know that you have the same wish that I do, that we could do that our suffering would lessen other people's suffering, we would choose it. I know we would. I know your heart is that good. But remember that our suffering doesn't lessen theirs. And so as you experience that, as you watch yourself kind of leaning into the suffering of like, it doesn't feel right to feel good when there's so much pain in the world, I want you to remember that we can use that suffering for good, and then we can go do good in the world, and we can go feel good in the world, because ultimately that is going to raise the vibration. When you are feeling really stuck by this, I think this is something that I've coached on the most, is like it almost feels paralyzing, which is how I know that you are taking on the energy of suffering, because suffering feels paralyzing. I want you to zoom out. I want you to ask yourself, like, what about this matters most to me today? What options do I have to activate on those things? And then I want you to choose one thing, and I want you to go do it. And then I want you to get back into your life and go let yourself feel the goodness and the freedom that you have access to. Because I know on a global collective level, that is what can actually create the most change, is you taking action on the things that matter most to you, you doing things that move the needle for those other humans, those other people, for those other causes. And then go experience the fullness of your life. Your vibration impacts the entire collective. So don't withhold that from yourself, because when you do that, you are withholding it from the world as well. All right, you guys, I know this was a lot. I think I bounced around a lot. I'm going to get used to being back in this chair, but um, I'm so thankful to be back here. I'm so grateful that you are following along. I hope this meets you where you are. I would love to hear from you if this resonated with you. I would love for you to leave a review and share it with a friend if that feels good. I would also love for you to just send me a message and let me know how this hit home for you. I know that a lot of us are feeling this right now, and I am sending you so much love. Your heart is so good. And so we've got to keep shining your light out in the world. That is what actually will make the greatest impact, is your love and your light out in the world. And so let it shine. All right, you guys, I love you so much. I will see you in the next episode.